Hey guys, guess what? In this episode, I'm be saying my final goodbyes to the players that left. Welcome back. And yes, that is what I'm going to be doing in this episode. Now, since it is a short list, what I am probably going to do is I'm going to say kind of my final goodbyes, not only to the Hurricane players that left on free agency day, but throughout the season, with the exemption of Miko Rantanen, because I just didn't think he was here long enough to truly be a Hurricane. But since it is a short list, I am kind of going to be doing that, and I think this would be a good segue. And part of the reason why I think it'd be good is because I was kind of thinking up ways to kind of fill this episode here because of that short list. But it'd be a good segue going into September with all the prediction episodes I'm going to be doing, like the standing predictions and looking at the Metro Division, and obviously giving my official season preview in September on the Carolina Hurricanes. So that is kind of a sneak peek of what September is going to be. But a good segue into that is I am going to look at my season predictions for last year's and compare them to how accurate they were. So I thought that'd be pretty cool. And obviously, first things first, before we head into it, is I have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off of your first purchase if you use promo code Caniac Reports, all one word. And it's a great deal if you want to save some money on some tickets to a local venue near you. And remember, no news on this episode because it is an August episode, but I will get back to the news portions on the episodes once September hits. And remember, this is the final reminder, but there is not going to be an episode on September the 1st. I have said this multiple times, so please do not look for an episode when September 1st hits. Yes, it's a Monday, but considering it is a holiday, there is going to be no episode on that day. So, this is a bit of a short list, but I'm talking about the players that left. And the first player I'm going to get to is a player that's been with us for a couple seasons. He was the way I kind of saw the signing is that he was a player that was kind of a placeholder until Nikishkin came in, and that is Dmitry Orlov. And Orlov, he's definitely had his ups and downs. It's been a roller coaster for him, no doubts. I thought at the start of the first season that he was with us, I thought it was a little bit rough. I thought he played at his best. I would say probably not this past playoffs, but the year before that in that playoff. And yeah, when it comes to Orlov, he I felt like the longer he stayed here, the more the fans probably were like, yeah, he's just not working out. And rightly so, just because he was not really good, especially in the most recent playoff run. But I think another part of it too is because we kind of knew the player that was going to take his spot was going to possibly be a franchise defenseman in Alexander Nikishkin. So, with that be in mind as well, I do think us fans were probably kind of wanting Orlov to leave. I won't say every fan was, but I do know there are quite a few fans, especially on Kane's Twitter, that are very vocal on Orlov leaving. But Orlov, he goes to San Jose on, I believe, another 2-year deal with them. And we'll see how he does with San Jose. He is a veteran for them. And, I congratulate him for getting that much money because it is pretty good money. I didn't think he would get that much compared to how his performance was. But congratulations to him. And I hope he has honestly probably a better 2 years in San Jose. In terms of his performance alone, I'm not going to say anything about the team. I think the team's going to get better, but I just hope his performance alone probably is a little bit more consistent with San Jose. I don't have any bad feelings toward the player, but those are kind of my final thoughts for Dmitry Orlov. The next player, and we only signed him for this past season, but he was a player that started out very, very good, getting lots of goals. If you guys remember him and Jack Roslovic. Now, as I'm recording this, he is still a free agent, and I am surprised he is still a free agent because I would have thought there would be a team that would sign him, but still a free agent. And honestly, I thought he played pretty good for us this past season, given the expectations. He was kind of viewed as, I think he's a good player coming into last season when we signed him, but I didn't think he'd be over 20 goals. So I actually thought he played above his expectations there. But with Jack Roslovic, I would say probably in the playoffs, I thought whenever he played, he thought he was good. And you know what? Even though he's not with the team yet, I do definitely think he is going to be with the team. He got over 20 goals. So I think he is bound to go somewhere. And I hope the best of luck to him in the free agent market. And I hope he gets a pretty decent raise because, again, this is a player that I thought kind of surpassed expectations. So the next player I do want to talk about is Scott Morrow. And Scott Morrow, he is a player, obviously he was a rookie that was kind of projected to be like, oh, he could be a top 4 defenseman. Now, he was brought up. He played quite a few games with us. In fact, just to look at his stats with us, Scott Morrow, he got well, I'm getting to his stats here, but he was seen as a very promising player. He just was, and I thought when he played, you can tell there was offense there. Very good offense. I think he's a great passer. The only thing is, I just think his skating ability is just not good with us. And another thing, too, I think part of why we traded Scott Morrow is that you look at the Hurricanes D-core now, there's just no fit for him. That's why we got Keandre Miller and he got sent to the Rangers. But Scott Morrow, again, another player I do not have hateful feelings toward. I hope he becomes good. Now, he's on a Rangers team that I will admit, the Rangers, I'm not the biggest fan. I do not like the team. But for Scott Morrow's sake, I will say I hope he becomes a pretty good defenseman. And I think we all know he's probably going to be an offensive defenseman in that area. So I hope he kind of excels in that. It'd be good for Scott Morrow. It's just, it wasn't going to work out here with Scott Morrow. So we'll see how he does in his first season with the Rangers. And you know what? I wish you the best of luck, Scott Morrow. Wish you the best of luck. The next player is a young player that we traded, and it was in the Rantanen, Colorado trade, and it is Jack Drury. And this is a player who, honestly, by the way, back to Scott Morrow, his stats in 14 games, he got 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. So that's not bad. Again, he has offense. Back to Jack Drury. I thought he could possibly be that future Jordan Stahl type of player just because of my feelings, obviously, with KK. But Jack Drury, I think he is a type of forward who probably isn't. His potential, I think, is probably third line type of center. And with him being obviously pretty young, I was like, he could be a good piece for us in the future. But obviously, he got traded to try and get Mikko Rantanen. Again, I like the trade. I understand the risk. I understand it might have been miscalculated risk, but I think part of a GM's job is to make big risks. And I think Tulsky definitely did that. I'm not going to blame that trade on Tulsky. But Drury, with him being in Colorado, I hope he excels. just as much as Scott Morrow probably with the Rangers. Well, maybe less so considering he's with the Rangers, but regardless, it's more on the player's sake than the team's sake. And I just hope that Drury has a good long career, whether it's with Colorado or not. The next player, and this is why I'm kind of wearing his jersey, and that is Martin H's. He was that key piece going back to Colorado, also in that Rantanen trade. I will admit, getting Rantanen, I thought at the time was going to be amazing, wonderful. Obviously, it didn't work out. But considering we had to trade Netchus, I mean, I understand you had to give up value to get great value. But Netchus, I, I mean, to me, he's a player that is probably one of the gifted players on the Hurricanes by far, in my opinion. He's up there. It's just it never worked under Brittamore's system. And he was leading this team in points. Like he had a great, wonderful start with Carolina, and then he just fell off a cliff and just didn't even perform remotely near to what he was producing at the beginning of the season. And that's kind of part of the reason why we traded him. But Natchez, man, I'm telling you, I think he is so gifted. And I do think we're getting some form of Natchez with Ehlers, because Ehlers is going to be starting the Hurricanes with us, part of his first season for the next 5-6 years. But at the same time, Natchez, I'm telling you, he was something special. He was one of those players that could not connect his mind to his hands at times. Obviously, he gave the puck up a lot throughout his time with us, but he was a Hurricanes drafted player. And yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster, but I do think one thing with Netchus is that his offensive capabilities, I think his potential, and I'm not saying that he's hit there yet, but I think his potential is high-end elite superstar just because I think he is that good. Thing is, he's not consistent with being at that level. And Netchus, I really hope he has a good career. I know there are rumors that Colorado's possibly trading him, but regardless, I hope he has a good career, whether it's with Colorado or not. I will admit, out of all the players that we've had on this team, that just does have a little bit of a special place in my heart just because of how naturally gifted he is. And the next player, I chose to leave him for last because I think he is one of the most unique players that we have had on this team for so long. And the fact that we got, I would say, a probably Hall of Fame, again, possibly a Hall of Fame player, is Brent Burns. And I know there's a nickname for him, being called the alpha male, but regardless, I mean, that nickname, I do think, in my opinion, is accurate. He is a unique guy. And yeah, he's one of those defensemen where started out a little bit rough. Every defenseman, it seems like, under Brind'Amour's system, when it comes to that first year, it does get a little bit rough. But he's a defenseman that offensively was really good for us for a couple years. And then obviously this season, his offense dropped off. He turned into more of a defensive defenseman. But man, Burns, I am so happy to say a guy like Brent Burns was a Hurricane, because I do think he is one of those unique, special players that we don't really get to have. Like, you don't see a lot of Brent Burns type of players. And this is not to criticize other players. It's just how unique and how great of a personality Brent Burns is. And he provides great, I would say he provides great leadership probably on the team. And it was awesome to have him be a Hurricane for quite a few years. So I hope he does well, like Drury, like Netchess in Colorado. And We'll see how he does in Colorado. I mean, it was time obviously to move on from Brent Burns. It really was. But I think how his role is going to be in Colorado is really going to benefit him. He's going to be playing third pairing minutes. He's not going to be used a whole lot, which is good. I mean, the guy is 40 years old. It's not really wise to play him over 20 minutes, even though I think defensively he's been pretty good this past season. So we'll see how he does with Colorado. And that's it for the players that left. So now I'm going to get on to looking at my past standing predictions. If you guys remember listening to that episode with me and my former co-host Sam, we had our standing predictions, and I kind of want to go back to it so I can see how accurate I was. So the first division is the Pacific Division. So I'm going to say I'm go by like 8, 7, and 6 in that order. But I will label what actually happened first compared to my prediction. So at number 8, I actually got this right. San Jose. San Jose actually did finish at number 8, and I predicted them to go at number 8. Number 7, this is when I really went off base here. But again, it's speculation and it's fun. That's just how it is. Speculating can be fun. But 7, I had Calgary. And in actual reality, number 7th was Seattle. So I actually had Seattle higher on my predictions heading into last season. But number 6 in actuality, Anaheim was the 6th worst team in the Pacific. And I labeled as the 6th worst, as the 6th position in the Pacific, Anaheim as well. So I got that right. So that's not bad. I got 2 right. And then number 5, I had number 5 was Vancouver. They actually did finish 5th overall in the Pacific, and I had Seattle. So that's where I labeled Seattle. And then 4th overall, actually in the Pacific, was Calgary, and I had number 4, LA. So again, going on a string here of misses. Not surprising. It really isn't. Heck, when I do my standing predictions in September, trust me, it's going to be one of those. It's probably going to be the same thing again, basically. And number 3, in actuality, is Edmonton. They finished at the number 3 position in the Pacific. And I had Vegas. So at least I had Vegas in the playoffs, but I still got that wrong. And number 2, in actuality, you had the LA Kings, and I had Vancouver. I was very high. I remember both Sam and I were very high in Vancouver, mainly because if you looked at the season before, they posted up excellent numbers, and they just fell out of the playoffs. But number 1, I remember both Sam and I had Edmonton. Obviously, Edmonton finished 3rd, but you had Vegas finishing 1st in actuality. So that was my prediction for the Pacific Division. And then for the Central Division, in actuality, it was Chicago. And I did predict Chicago last as well, so I got that correct. And 7th, in actuality, I think this stunned everybody just because of all the free agents Nashville got. I mean, they finished 7th seed in the Central Division. I think heading into last season, people would not believe that, but I was one of those people as well. And I actually had St. Louis come in at the 7th overall position in the Central. So already got that wrong right there. And then number 6, I actually got this right. But number 6 in actuality is Utah. Utah got the 6th position in the Central, and I also predicted them to be the 6th position. And in the 5th position, in actuality, it's St. Louis. And I did not think St. Louis was actually going to have that good of a season. So good for St. Louis. But number fifth I had was Minnesota. And I was close with Minnesota because in actuality, Minnesota finished fourth. Very close. Very close. And fourth overall, who I predicted was Winnipeg. Boy, was I wrong right there. Now, they still made it into the playoffs, but Winnipeg was a lot higher seeded than that. I don't think anybody saw the type of season Winnipeg was going to have this past season. And number three, in actuality, I got this right. So I got quite a few right in the Central Division, was Colorado. So I predicted Colorado to finish third, and that is where they finished at, is third in the Central. And then second, I predicted Nashville just because of all the high hopes with signing Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. And in actuality, Dallas got the second position in the Central. And then first is Winnipeg, obviously, and I had Dallas finishing first in the Central. So I actually got a few positions right in the Central Division, more so than the Pacific. And now I am going to get to the Eastern Conference because I just finished the Western. And in the Atlantic, I remember trying to do this last year. It was tough predicting the Atlantic Division. But I had at number 8 in the Atlantic, I had Montreal. That was a big miss. Already a big miss. And in actuality, the team that finished very last, I don't think anybody predicted this team to finish last in the Atlantic, but it was Boston. So to me, that's interesting. At 7th, I predicted Detroit, and in the Atlantic, it was Buffalo that finished 7th in actuality. So another disappointing season for Buffalo. I did predict Buffalo to actually finish 6th, though, but Detroit got the 6th position, actually. So I was close with Buffalo and Detroit, actually. So I was very close for both teams. I just had to probably switch the two. Then I probably got 2 positions right in the Atlantic. And then in the 5th position, that was when I predicted Boston. But in the 5th position, it was Montreal, and they got into the playoffs. And then the 4th position, I had Tampa Bay because of the losses they had. Because I was like, I think they're not going to be as good. Boy, was I proven wrong. And in actuality, Ottawa finished 4th. Now, I already had high hopes for Ottawa. I remember heading into last season because I predicted them to finish 3rd in the Atlantic, but they actually finished 4th. So, you know what? Considering they made the playoffs, even though I'm not going to give myself a technical win, I think there's some sort of a win there because I thought Ottawa was going to make the playoffs, and they did. So, but number 3 actually was Florida that finished the division. Obviously, they won the Stanley Cup. And then number 2, this was a little bit close. I predicted Toronto to finish in the 2nd position in the Atlantic, but it was actually Tampa. And I predicted Florida to win the Atlantic at number 1, but it was actually Toronto. So I think the amount of teams that I predicted correctly was only the one in, or maybe it was 0. Yeah, it was 0. 0 for 8 in the Atlantic. Wow. That's something. So the last division, the Hurricanes division, which is the Metropolitan, and this was my prediction, and I had at number 8 Columbus. And I do think everybody predicting last season did not think Columbus was going to finish 4th. But Number 8th was actually Philadelphia that finished worse in the division. And I was kind of close with Philadelphia. I predicted Philadelphia to go 7th overall in the position, but that was actually taken by Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, again, another team that was pretty close to where I predicted them, because I predicted Pittsburgh to finish 6th overall in the Metro, and it was actually taken by the Islanders. And then the 5th position, I predicted the New York Islanders to finish. Again, I was very close with these predictions. Just couldn't get it. But 5th, I predicted the Islanders. It was actually the Rangers that missed the playoffs at the 5th position. And nobody, I think everybody would agree, nobody saw the Rangers finishing outside of the playoffs. Nobody thought that. And then you had Columbus finishing at 4th position. I had Washington finishing at 4th. I did think they had a strong case of making the playoffs, and they actually did. So I think there's some win there, even though technically I didn't really win. And then number 3, I had Carolina. And Carolina, they surpassed my expectations. They finished 2nd. And I'm telling you, I'm actually proud of that. I really, really am as a Canes fan. And then number 2, I predicted New Jersey. New Jersey went 3rd overall. And then number 1, I predicted the New York Rangers just because I thought they were the best team in the division. Nope. I was completely wrong there. And it was Washington that finished with an absurd record with 51 wins, 22 losses. Nobody, I think, on earth saw that coming. So those were kind of my predictions heading into last season's standings. I kind of want to revisit that since I will be getting into my predictions for this upcoming season in September. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I thought it was pretty fun. And funny enough, it's around 30 minutes. I'm happy I did that. So I will see you guys in the next episode.